The story begins with a seemingly ordinary day, but the air carries a subtle undercurrent of something about to shift. The male narrator, a young man in his mid-20s, moves through his routine with the quiet attentiveness of someone who notices details most people overlook. The rustle of pages in a library, the faint aroma of coffee in a cafe, the warmth of sunlight spilling through a shop window. He is observant, reflective, and quietly yearning for a connection he hasn't quite found yet. Enter the widow, a woman in her early 40s, carrying herself with a graceful confidence that comes from experience. There's a gentle elegance in the way she moves, how her scarf brushes lightly against her neck, the soft sway of her hair as she turns her head, the poised way she sets down her belongings. She is attractive, but not in a way that demands attention. Instead, she exudes a quiet magnetism that draws the narrator's gaze without effort. There is a subtle sadness in her eyes, a hint of something unspoken that invites curiosity rather than judgment. Their first encounter is accidental, almost mundane. She reaches for a book on a high shelf, her fingers brushing his as they both reach for it. The touch is brief, yet it sends an unexpected warmth up his arm, startling in its intimacy. It is not the type of touch that makes one blush or tremble with desire, but rather a spark of recognition. Two people brushing against each other and, in that instant, sensing something they weren't expecting. He notices the softness of her hand, the faint tremor of surprise that mirrors his own, and the quiet steadiness of her presence that seems to hold a story behind it. As they speak, even briefly, their conversation carries a gentle rhythm. She speaks with a measured, thoughtful cadence, revealing glimpses of her mind without giving everything away. He finds himself leaning slightly forward, drawn by the warmth in her voice and the subtle spark in her eyes, aware of every movement she makes, the tilt of her head, the way her fingers linger on the book, the soft laugh that escapes her when their eyes meet. There is a magnetic pull in these small, fleeting moments, an unspoken recognition that something rare has begun, even if neither fully understands it yet. Internally, the narrator grapples with a mixture of surprise and fascination. There is an age difference, yes, but it does not feel like a barrier in this moment. Instead, it deepens his curiosity, his respect, and the quiet admiration stirring inside him. The widow, for her part, senses this too. Her gaze lingers a fraction longer than necessary, a small, playful smile tugging at the corners of her lips, as though silently acknowledging the unusual, unspoken connection forming between them. The part closes on a note of quiet anticipation. Their paths diverge, but the brief, accidental contact lingers in his mind like a soft echo. He leaves the encounter aware that something delicate, meaningful, and quietly electrifying has begun. The audience is left with the subtle thrill of potential, a sense that ordinary moments can carry extraordinary significance, and the promise of a slow, emotionally charged journey just beginning. After their first accidental encounter, the narrator finds himself unexpectedly aware of her presence in ways he hadn't anticipated. Life seems to arrange small, ordinary situations where they cross paths again, at the same cafe, walking through a quiet park, or passing each other in a local bookstore. Each meeting is brief, almost mundane, yet laden with a delicate tension that neither can ignore. The slow, tentative rhythm of their interactions begins to weave a subtle emotional intimacy, one measured in fleeting touches, glances that linger just a heartbeat too long, and shared smiles that carry a quiet electricity. During these encounters, physical contact is unintentional at first, almost accidental, but it speaks volumes. Her shoulder brushes his as she reaches past him on a crowded sidewalk. Her fingers briefly graze his hand while exchanging change at a cafe counter. Or she hands him a book and their fingers meet in a fleeting, gentle press. Each moment sends a jolt of warmth, a curious flutter he cannot quite name. It's not desire in its most obvious form. It is instead a magnetic pull, a recognition of presence that feels unusually grounding and alive. He notices the soft texture of her sweater against his palm, the subtle fragrance she carries, something warm, faintly floral and comforting, and the way her hands move with graceful deliberation. The widow, for her part, seems aware of this growing closeness and responds with careful, quiet playfulness. She allows the brief touches to linger slightly longer than necessary, tilts her head when speaking to invite eye contact, or laughs softly at his awkward attempts at conversation. Her body language is gentle but intentional, leaning in just enough to bridge the small physical gap between them, letting her hand brush his when handing over an object, or letting her foot graze his under the cafe table. Each action is measured, never forceful, yet it conveys an unmistakable warmth and curiosity. Internally, the narrator is caught in a mix of fascination and hesitation. He is acutely aware of the age difference, the social expectations, and the fragile boundary between friendship and something more. Every time her hand brushes his or her shoulder presses lightly against his mind races with what-ifs and subtle, unspoken longing. Yet there is also comfort. Her presence is grounding, her attention sincere, and her laughter disarming. These encounters allow him to observe her quietly, to notice the small details. The way her eyes light up when she talks about something she loves, the thoughtful pauses before she responds, or the faint quiver in her voice when a topic brushes close to her past. By the end of this phase, the emotional tension is palpable but unspoken. The audience feels the growing magnetism between them, the quiet anticipation of what might happen if the next encounter draws them closer. The slow-burn romance builds in small, almost imperceptible ways, through touch, observation, and lingering moments that leave both the narrator and the widow aware of a connection that goes beyond casual acquaintance. It is a dance of curiosity, hesitation, and subtle intimacy, a prelude to the deeper emotional revelations yet to come. By now, the accidental and playful touches of earlier encounters have begun to carry weight. The male narrator senses that beneath her poised elegance lies a quiet reservoir of loneliness, a space carefully guarded but slowly opening in his presence. This part of the story focuses on emotional exposure, her vulnerability and his gentle attentiveness, drawing the audience deeper into their connection. The setting for this encounter is intimate, a contrast to the public, fleeting touches of earlier meetings. Perhaps it is a quiet evening in a small cafe, the warm amber glow of lamps reflecting off wooden tables, or a stroll along a secluded park path as the sun dips low, leaving the world soft and golden. The environment mirrors the story's emotional tone. Gentle, warm, and quietly charged, she begins to share fragments of her life, stories tinged with the ache of loss and the weight of years lived alone. Her voice is soft, occasionally faltering, and he notices the subtle tremor in her hands as she gestures while speaking. He offers her a steadying presence, an attentive gaze, the careful placement of his hand on hers when she reaches for her cup, or the way he leans slightly forward, showing interest without crowding her space. Each gesture communicates reassurance and empathy, and she responds by allowing these small touches, her fingers lingering a fraction longer than necessary on his hand. Her body language is a language in itself. She tucks strands of hair behind her ear with a nervous flutter, leans in when she speaks but recoils subtly when memories hit too close, and occasionally rests her cheek lightly against her palm, lost in thought. He observes quietly, internalizing her vulnerabilities without judgment, and slowly begins to understand the depth of her grief, and the courage it takes for her to reveal it. For the narrator, the experience is transformative. He feels a growing protectiveness and admiration, realizing that the attraction he senses goes beyond mere physical interest. He is drawn to her resilience, the subtle grace with which she navigates pain, and the rare glimpses of softness she allows him to see. Moments of shared silence become profoundly meaningful. The quiet of the cafe punctuated only by the gentle clink of spoons, or the rustle of leaves in the park as they walk side by side, shoulders occasionally brushing. Each pause conveys unspoken trust and the intimacy of shared understanding. The audience begins to sense that the romantic tension is no longer just about curiosity or fleeting attraction. It is about connection. The slow, delicate unveiling of hearts that have learned caution but now find tentative comfort in each other. Her vulnerability is a gift, and his attentive presence is the quiet affirmation that someone can see her fully and still remain gently present. The story teases the promise of deeper emotional intimacy without rushing physical expressions, making each brush of the hand, each lingering glance, and each unspoken word carry immense weight. By the end of this part, both characters are subtly changed. She has allowed herself to open a crack in her carefully maintained armor, and he has discovered a capacity for tenderness and patience that mirrors her own cautious hope. The audience feels the tension and warmth simmering beneath the surface, eagerly anticipating the next stage of their slow-burn connection, the tentative testing of boundaries and the first conscious acknowledgement of desire. Having shared moments of vulnerability, both the narrator and the widow begin to sense a growing, unspoken attraction. The story now shifts into the delicate territory of testing emotional and physical boundaries, a phase where subtle gestures speak louder than words, and every small action carries a weight of intention. This part is crucial for building tension and deepening the audience's investment in their slow-burn connection. The setting for this chapter should evoke intimacy without claustrophobia, perhaps a quiet art gallery, a cozy corner of a bookstore, or a small cafe after hours. The atmosphere is softly lit, warm, and private enough for them to feel a rare freedom from the public gaze. It is in these spaces that closeness becomes intentional yet tentative. Physical touches remain gentle, playful, and laden with meaning. She might lightly brush crumbs from his jacket or adjust his collar with a touch that lingers just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Their shoulders occasionally graze as they navigate narrow aisles or paths, and the narrator notices the subtle shift in her scent. Something warm, familiar, and comforting that seems to invite closeness. These touches are never forced. They test comfort zones, revealing the delicate balance between restraint and desire. Emotionally, this part explores hesitation and curiosity. Both characters are acutely aware of the age gap and the unspoken social expectations, yet they feel drawn toward each other in ways they cannot ignore. The widow's glances carry layers of meaning, fleeting, soft, and sometimes challenging, as though silently gauging his response. The narrator finds himself reading every subtle cue, her breath, the tilt of her head, the gentle arch of her eyebrows, and responding with a combination of attentiveness and restraint. Each moment is a negotiation of desire, trust, and emotional safety. Their dialogue is marked by warmth and playfulness, but also by honesty. She teases him gently, her tone flirtatious yet measured, while he responds with nervous charm, careful not to overstep. Laughter becomes a tool of connection, diffusing tension while simultaneously drawing them closer. Between words, silences are filled with meaning. A shared glance, a pause before answering, or a moment where their hands almost touch before retreating. These subtle interactions allow the audience to feel the simmering tension without explicit romance, highlighting the slow-burn nature of their connection. Internally, both characters are navigating a mix of excitement and self-awareness. He marvels at her confidence and subtle vulnerability, while she experiences a rare thrill in feeling noticed, appreciated, and subtly desired. Their awareness of each other's emotional and physical cues deepens their connection, creating a push-and-pull rhythm that heightens anticipation. By the end of this part, the audience should feel the tension coiling tighter. The magnetic pull between them is undeniable, yet carefully contained. They are both testing boundaries, not only physical proximity but also emotional closeness, curiosity, and trust. It is a pivotal stage, laying the groundwork for the next chapter, where emotions will reach a subtle crescendo and unspoken longings will begin to surface more boldly. By this point in the story, the tension between the narrator and the widow has become palpable. Every glance, touch, and word has built toward this subtle, yet emotionally charged moment. Part 5 is the first true emotional peak, where vulnerability transforms into honest acknowledgement of desire and longing, without ever straying into overtly sexual territory. This is the heart of the slow burn romance, where the audience experiences the depth of their connection fully. The setting should feel intimate and safe, a private space where both characters can let down their defenses. It could be the quiet comfort of her living room in the evening, lit by the soft glow of lamps and the flicker of candlelight, or a serene outdoor spot as the sun sets, bathing the world in golden warmth. The environment mirrors their emotional state, calm, warm, and charged with anticipation. The widow makes the first bold move, yet in the gentlest possible way. She allows her hand to brush against his deliberately, and instead of pulling away, she lets it linger. Her touch is soft, deliberate, almost shy, but it carries years of pent-up longing and vulnerability. The narrator feels an almost electric warmth where their fingers meet, the steady pulse of her presence grounding him even as it sparks a deeper emotional awareness. Her confession comes in the form of words that are as delicate as the touch itself. She speaks softly, deliberately, and with a tremor of honesty. "It's been so long since someone made me feel alive. Don't you dare stop now," she whispers. There is no pressure in her tone, only raw sincerity. Her eyes search his, revealing her trust, her courage, and the quiet hope she has allowed herself to feel in his presence. The narrator's response is internal as much as it is physical. He experiences a rush of emotions: surprise, admiration, tenderness, and a profound recognition of mutual desire. He notices the subtle shifts in her body, the way her shoulders relax slightly, the faint catch in her breath, the way her gaze lingers as though daring him to meet her vulnerability with equal honesty. He mirrors her openness, letting his hand cover hers, fingers intertwining softly, conveying that he is fully present, attentive, and emotionally responsive. Nonverbal cues dominate the scene. Their shoulders brush as they sit close, leaning in just enough that the warmth of proximity amplifies their connection. Her hair falls over her shoulder and he notices the softness, the scent, the comforting weight of her presence nearby. Each shared glance and quiet smile becomes a language of intimacy in itself. The emotional impact of this chapter is profound. The audience feels the culmination of the previous encounters, the small touches, lingering looks, and playful gestures, transforming into a conscious acknowledgement of longing. It is the first moment where desire is voiced, yet it remains tender, measured, and deeply human. By the end of this part, both characters have acknowledged the pull between them, setting the stage for the next chapter, where hesitation, trust, and emotional closeness will intertwine as they navigate their feelings with even greater intimacy. After the widow's heartfelt confession, the narrator and she find themselves standing on the edge of emotional intimacy. Their connection is undeniable, yet both are acutely aware of the delicate balance between desire and caution. Part 6 explores the subtle hesitations, internal conflicts, and small, meaningful gestures that characterize a slow-burn romance at this stage. It is a chapter of reflection, reassurance, and deepening trust. The setting mirrors their emotional state: soft, private, and contemplative. It could be a quiet evening walk through a tree-lined park, the sun low in the sky casting long, golden shadows, or a cozy corner of a cafe where the outside world feels distant and the conversation can flow uninterrupted. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, distant laughter, the clink of cups, becomes part of the atmosphere, accentuating the intimacy of shared space. Physical proximity remains subtle yet significant. They sit or walk side by side, shoulders occasionally brushing, hands hovering close without necessarily touching. Every movement is measured. Even small touches, like the casual grazing of fingers or a reassuring hand on the back, carry weight. The narrator is hyper-aware of the warmth of her presence, the softness of her hand when it briefly rests near his, and the rhythm of her breathing. These small physical cues convey trust and comfort, strengthening their bond without words. Emotionally, this chapter is rich with internal reflection. The narrator contemplates the age difference and the complexities of a relationship that might be socially unexpected. He questions his own feelings, ensuring that his attraction is rooted in genuine care, respect, and admiration rather than fleeting infatuation. She, in turn, navigates the vulnerability of allowing herself to feel desire and hope again, recognizing that trust must be earned gradually and that emotional connection is as essential as attraction. Dialogue is layered with meaning. Conversations flow naturally, touching on shared interests, personal philosophies, and quiet humor that eases tension. Laughter punctuates their exchanges, softening moments of hesitation and building comfort. Occasionally, a pause speaks louder than any words. The way she lingers on a topic, the way he mirrors her body language, or the fleeting eye contact that conveys understanding and empathy. These nuances reinforce the slow-burn nature of their romance, showing the audience that emotional intimacy is built through attentiveness and subtlety rather than grand gestures. By the end of this part, both characters have grown more attuned to one another. The narrator recognizes the profound effect she has on him, the way her presence evokes calm, curiosity, and protective affection. The widow senses that her willingness to be vulnerable has been met with sincerity, patience, and care. Their interactions, full of nuanced touches, glances, and soft laughter, create a palpable warmth that foreshadows the emotional resolution to come. This chapter emphasizes that slow-burn romance is as much about the unspoken moments, the hesitations, the thoughtful pauses, and the subtle physical cues, as it is about the expressed feelings. It leaves the audience with a sense of anticipation, invested in seeing how these carefully nurtured emotions will blossom into a satisfying, heartfelt conclusion. The story reaches its culmination in a chapter that celebrates connection, trust, and emotional fulfillment. After navigating hesitation, vulnerability, and unspoken longing, the narrator and the widow arrive at a place where their slow-burn romance transforms into a tender, heartfelt union. This part is about closure, warmth, and the quiet triumph of two hearts finding each other in a world that once felt distant and guarded. The setting is deliberately intimate and comforting. It could be the widow's softly lit living room, where lamps cast a golden glow and a gentle fire flickers, creating warmth and safety, or a serene garden bathed in the soft, late afternoon sun, the air carrying the subtle scent of flowers and freshly cut grass. The environment mirrors their emotional state, calm, secure, and glowing with quiet joy. Every detail, the softness of a cushion, the faint warmth of the sun on their shoulders, the gentle sound of a breeze, becomes part of the sensory landscape, enhancing their connection. Physical intimacy is gentle, deliberate, and emotionally resonant. Their hands intertwine naturally, fingers curling around each other with a familiarity born of trust. She leans slightly into his shoulder, her head brushing against his upper arm, and he feels the comforting steadiness of her presence. Small touches, once tentative and exploratory, are now confident and mutually reassuring. A light touch on the back, brushing a strand of hair from her face, a soft hand on her arm as they laugh together. These gestures convey affection, care, and the deep emotional bond they have nurtured. Emotionally, this chapter is a release of the tension that has built throughout the story. The widow's earlier confessions of longing and vulnerability are met with unwavering attentiveness and warmth. The narrator, in turn, expresses admiration, care, and a quiet love that is not dramatic but profoundly sincere. Their conversations flow with ease, punctuated by soft laughter, lingering looks, and moments of comfortable silence where words are unnecessary. Every glance and gesture reinforces the emotional intimacy they have cultivated. The narrative focus is on mutual fulfillment. She feels alive again, her guarded heart opened by someone who respects her, admires her, and cherishes her presence. He experiences the profound satisfaction of being seen, trusted, and needed in a way that transcends superficial attraction. Their connection is not a sudden, fiery romance but a steady, enduring warmth that feels real, human, and sustainable. A slow-burn love realized fully. The audience experiences the resolution through sensory and emotional detail. The warmth of a hand pressed into another, the subtle scent of perfume mingling with the evening air, the gentle rhythm of shared breathing, and the quiet joy of laughter echoing softly. The story concludes with a sense of completeness, showing that love built on respect, patience, and emotional honesty is profoundly rewarding. By the end, both characters are transformed. They are no longer tentative, hesitant, or guarded. They are fully present with each other, connected through touch, trust, and shared vulnerability. The slow-burn romance finds its satisfying conclusion in the small, intimate details. The intertwined hands, the leaning closeness, the laughter and warmth that leave the audience with a lingering sense of hope, joy, and emotional fulfillment. If this story of unexpected connection and slow-burn romance touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a tale of love, longing, and the magic of human connection.